Hello and welcome to this episode of the PD Smash Podcast. Today we have a great episode for you. We're first going to talk about the Doug Peterson firing and the Deshaun Watson trade rumors. Next, we're going to recap the NFL Super Wildcard Weekend. Then after that, we're going to look ahead to next week's games. And then finally, to end off this great episode, we're going to talk about the shock of the week. I wouldn't really say it's a shock, but I'm surprised it got done this early in the season. The Nets trade for James Harden. Now that is what you call a crazy moment. But I'm getting my head ahead of myself. Let's first rewind all the way back to the Doug Peterson firing. Now, there's not a whole lot to cover here. Of course, it's exciting. It's a firing of a head coach, a Super Bowl winning head coach, 2 years after he won that Super Bowl. And now, I'm going to say this. Yes, and I do mean this. Carson Wentz looked horrific. And I mean absolutely horrific this year. And that's why they started Jalen Hurts. But I do believe Carson Wentz just needs to get into a better system. I don't, and I really do mean this. I don't think Doug Peterson's that great of a head coach in terms of like scheming up an offensive play design and all that. I think he had a great season as head coach because he had great supporting pieces, and then he was able to just kind of plug in the rest. But I don't think he's that great of a head coach. I think he will get another coaching job, but I don't think he's that great of a head coach. Hey, maybe he'll prove me wrong, but that's just what I believe. Especially with all the stuff that came out over the past few weeks about his coaching decision with Nate Sudfeld and the players losing trust and having to be physically restrained and all that. So I don't really trust Doug Peterson to run my team. And I don't think he did the best job with Carson Wentz, but I do think Carson Wentz should be traded if possible, because I think it's time for the Eagles to move on from Carson Wentz, because I think once you go with a new guy and he shows promise and he's young, it's not like the Mitch Trubisky Nick Foles thing where Nick Foles was also being bad and he's also like 35. So it's way more important that you just go with a new guy if you're the Eagles and just enter rebuilding mode, because all your pieces are getting older, they're aging, or they're not there from the Super Bowl run a few years back. So, but in terms of the firing itself, I think it was a good move for the Eagles. And I think it was the fact, as much of Doug Peterson's resume this year, as well as it was his attitude about it, because there are reports of him being like, I want to run everything because I'm a Super Bowl winning head coach. So I think that's just kind of an L on his part and something that he needs to recalculate as a human being. Now next, the Deshaun Watson trade rumors. Now there are two main teams I want to talk about. One of them being my own team. But first, let's go with the Dolphins. And I think for both teams, if the Dolphins are like, hey, we'll give you Tua, whatever pick we have this year, plus a couple other picks, first-round picks, in maybe a couple seconds. If you're the Houston Texans, you take that and you just go full rebuild. And if you're the Miami Dolphins, you take that because you're a great quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. Now, I'm not saying Tua can't turn into a great quarterback, but Deshaun Watson is clearly better right now. He's a top 5 quarterback in this league, if you ask me. And I think if his team could legitimately stop a soul on defense, they would be able to win. They would have won a lot more games. They probably would have made the playoffs. That defense was horrific. There was one game, I think, that offense didn't have a good game. And it was in a really windy day. I think if that Houston team went 10 and what was it? If that Houston team goes 12-4, I think that Deshaun Watson's in conversation for MVP. So I definitely think that this team needs to just hit the reset. And I think it's really good for the Dolphins because you get a top 5 quarterback in the league. You already have good weapons. And then with whatever, I guess a 3rd round pick, you pick up another wide receiver, maybe another running back, And then you're pretty much set because you do have, I think it's Matt Breida who's going to come back from injury, who's a really good running back. He's not like great, but he's solid. Your wide receiving core is solid. Your offensive line is solid. Your quarterback is great. Your tight ends are solid. Your defense is exceptional. And I think when you have an A-plus quarterback and an A to an A-plus defense, you can get really far in this league. Next, I want to talk about my Washington football team. And again, same type of offer, except for it wouldn't be with a quarterback unless they want, for some reason, Taylor Heinicke, which I'll get into him later. But it'd be this like 3 or 4 first-round picks, 3 or 4 second-round picks, and then maybe like a third-round pick. And I think, again, if you're both teams, you take this unless you're Houston and you get the Miami offer, because that Miami offer is better in my opinion. But you get that offer from Washington, you don't get the Miami offer. You go and you pull the trigger on that because you, again, get the picks you need to rebuild. You get a plethora of first-round picks. You'll be able to select a quarterback that you can build around that year. Or you can select things that next year you already have good receivers, good running backs. You'll use those first-round picks for the good receivers, the good running backs. And then you will draft a quarterback next year because you won't be necessarily the greatest. And bada bang, bada boom, 2-year rebuild done like that. But really that defense needs help more than anything. But that's besides the point. I think that you definitely could just rebuild this team. Just sell on everything. That's really what they should do, is just sell on everything and get as much as they can and offload as much cap as possible because they're not winning anything anytime soon with the way that roster is constructed. But for Washington, you take this deal. You have an A to A+ defense. You have a B to B+ running back. You have an A- to A wide receiver 1. Your wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. But you got a B tight end. Your offensive line's solid. So in your special teams, Dustin Hawkins isn't great, but Tress Way, that man's exceptional. And you get an A coach in Ron Rivera. And I think you have a deal right there if you're Washington. In Deshaun, it's the capital. Don't be that guy who's like, I don't want to go to the capital. It's cool. It's Washington. Please come to us. I would really enjoy watching you because you are one of my favorite players. So please, I beg of you. And you look good in maroon. Anyway, now moving on to the highlights. First, I want to start with my team, actually. And I think the Bucks were lucky they came out of that game with a win. There was a lot of shoddy reffing in that game. Some of it went towards the Bucks. But there were couple of really key calls. One in particular where that's a fumble. I'm sorry. You're saying that's a fumble. Which means that would have given them the ball with 3rd and 5. And you're telling me 3rd and 5, the way Tyler Heinicke was playing, he wasn't going to be able to pick that up? It didn't. I think the football team could have definitely won that game if that call was reversed. I think that is 100% possible. And I think that the Bucks are lucky to get out of that game. And I think the Washington football team has a bright future ahead of them. And I think Taylor Heinicke could be a starting quarterback in this league next year. I don't think his job is guaranteed after that one game. But I think, especially where the football team is picking, there aren't any good mobile quarterbacks in the draft at their position, and that is what that's what Washington needs. I don't think Washington's not built for a pocket passer. Like, Alex Smith did well, but you can tell with Taylor Heinicke how much more explosive that offense looked, because it was those broken plays that those players seem to thrive on. So I think that that's another reason I think Deshaun Watson would be great there. But I think you go another year with Taylor Heinicke, and if you're bad, you're bad. and then you get a quarterback with that pick. But I think Tyler Heinicke earned himself at least a chance to compete for the starting position with that game. Because you're telling me with little to no time to prepare, in the most adverse of circumstances, you perform like that? That pick wasn't even on him. It got batted at the line of scrimmage. It's a freak accident. Like, that, the decision, too, was a good decision. Like, that was a good decision to throw the ball he was going to throw. That was a good decision. So it's really hard to say, but I think I give him the starting position there. Now, with the Browns and the Steelers, that first quarter was pitiful, and then after that, the game was essentially done. Like, it got close a couple times, but you never had the sense that, like, ooh, the Steelers are going to come back. After that first quarter, you were like, the Steelers are dumb. And that's just it. Now, Bears-Saints. The most interesting thing about that game was the Nickelodeon people. And they were so annoying. Yeah, I think it is cool that they decided to do it on Nick. But I think the crew did a good job. I just think the animations could have been better. And I also think that I think overall they did a good job. I think they just got dealt a really bad hand with, in my opinion, the worst game of Wild Card Weekend. There was no excitement in that game at all. And then the fact that they couldn't overpower the fact that Pro Football Focus was like Mitch Trubisky for MVP. So everyone voted, not Pro Football Focus, my apologies. Part of my take was like, let's go all in. Let's vote for Mitch Trubisky, everybody in our fan base. And so Mitch Trubisky won. So that's also pitiful. Like, they should have had some safeguard against that, but they didn't. But that's all right. At the end of the day, it was all for fun, and I think it did help expose at least some people to football, some young people to football. And it was kind of entertaining to watch. So that's all cool there. Now we are going to go to the LA Rams and the Seahawks. This was just a pitiful performance by the Seattle Seahawks. I don't understand what is happening. They seem to have just imploded in the second half of the season. It's like they flipped. First half of the season when their offense was amazing and their defense was ass. And then the other half of the season, the defense was amazing and the offense was ass. Figure out what you're going to do. Just figure it out. But on the flip side, the LA Rams, they did really good with their defense. My apologies for the cough. But on offense, you could tell Jared Goff is so limiting what Sean McVay wants to do. So I think that they might be in a market for a quarterback next year, which that would be interesting, especially with how much money Goff is making and all that good stuff. Next, I want to talk about... I'm sorry for that. If you can hear that, I don't know what is happening right now. My computer is having a little bit of a problem. But anyway, moving on. Next, we have the Green Bay... Nope, not the Green Bay Packers. They play this week. I don't understand what's happening with my computer. I apologize, guys. Anyway, the next game is the Titans-Ravens. And damn, the Ravens were out for blood there. They were out for blood. That stomp at the end with that interception, that was the funniest thing. But that is what the Titans get for doing that to them in Week 11. So, yeah, I think Lamar finally showed his maturity and how much he progressed from year 2 to year 3, which is insane considering he was MVP year 2. And that first throw, it was a good decision. He just misplaced it. But other than that, he played a really good game. The interception didn't really seem to frazzle him much, which is really good. This game really showed his maturity from year 1 to year 3, and especially year 2 to year 3. As you saw in that Titans game last year, it was like he was befuddled. He got so rattled after that first interception. But after this first interception, after the Titans went up 10-0, Lamar kept his pose. He drove them down the field. They scored, and they end up winning that game. And I think that Lamar was a big reason why. And you can tell his maturity because after the game, he was so mad in his interview about that interception. But not only that, to prevent a fight, because this is what I think he did. This is what it looked like he did. It looked like he pulled everyone else off the field. So there was no fighting involved and nothing like that. He just pulled all his teammates off the field so everyone was removed from the situation, which I think that was a really good decision, and it also showed his leadership because everyone followed him. No one was like hesitant. They all just followed him, which showed his leadership and how much influence he has over that team, which is a really good thing for a quarterback to have. Now finally, Bills Colts. The Colts literally got every opportunity to win that game and they still didn't win it. The Colts are just not good enough. The Colts are someone who should trade for not Deshaun Watson, other kid, Carson Wentz. Because Frank Wright is who made him the MVP once he was back in 2018. So I think you trade for him. You have weapons like T.Y. You have weapons like Pittman. You have that rookie running back. I think he's a rookie running back who just broke out at the end of the last season. You have a really good defense. And I think you have a team that is poised to make a run next year. Because I think Philip Rivers is also most likely going to retire. Because honestly, he does not look like he has much left in the tank. But we'll see. Now to preview next weekend. We've got the Bills-Ravens, and I think this is going to be closer than a lot of people give credit for, and I hope the Ravens win. I really do. I'm rooting for the Ravens. But I do think that in the end, the Bills will pull out, and I think it'll be close. I think it'll be like a 3-4 point game, and I think it will be a very high-scoring game. I think it'll be probably like 30-35, or like 33-36, or 35-38, 42-45, something in the range of either like the mid-30s to low 40s. I could see this game going into. And it's really going to come down to how electric Lamar is if there's bad weather. Because if there's bad weather and Lamar is able to run all over that defense, then the Ravens have a realistic chance to winning that game. But if that running game can't get going, then the Ravens are going to be dead in the water. Because you cannot throw in the snow, especially with the arm talent of Lamar. I think his arm is good. I think it's about average. But in the snow, an average arm looks well below average. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers who are playing the LA Rams, and this is pretty clear-cut to me. I think that defense is great for the LA Rams, but that offense is not going to be able to keep up. That offense for the Green Bay Packers has too many weapons. Like, Devontae Adams, throw over the top all day. Martez, not over the top, my apologies. He can't go over the top, but you throw him any intermediate route, any short route, any route over the middle, outside, he'll catch it. You got Scanling, who will go over the top and bust the top off that defense. Then you got Adam Lazar, who's willing to do all the dirty work. Then you have the safety blanket in Robert Tonyan. And then you have the savvy vet that is Mercedes Lewis. Then in the backfield, you have Aaron Jones, who's top 7 running back probably. And you have a really incredibly capable backup in Damon Williams. And then in terms of the offense for the offense for the Rams, they have good wide receivers. They have a good running back, but that quarterback, I'm sorry, Jared Goff, you're not good, my guy. You're just not. You're not good anymore, tiny hands. You're just not, and that's just a fact of life. It's time for you to accept that. I'm sorry to say. And that's going to be the thing that limits them moving forward into this divisional round. Now, next up, we have Browns-Chiefs. I think this is going to be a lot closer than most people think. I think the Browns are really going to be good at controlling the clock with their running game, because that's one thing that the Chiefs are not exceptional at is run defense. And that's the one thing the Browns are exceptional at, which is run offense. So if you're able to control the clock, make it a close game by limiting the possessions, I think that's definitely makes it possible for the Browns to win. I don't think they do. I think there's probably a 7-point game. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs roll out here. I think it's going to be a decent scoring game. It's probably going to be like a 28-21, like a 24-32 type game, 31 type game. You get what I mean. It's going to be decent scoring. It's not going to be extremely high scoring, but it's not going to be low scoring either. Now, with the next game and the final game of Wild Card Weekend, we have what I think is going to be the most competitive out of all the 4 games that are going to be played in Wild Card Weekend, and that's the Saints versus the Buccaneers. Now, why do I say I think it's going to be the most competitive? Because I think that Tom Brady is going to be able to whip that Bucs team into shape going into next week, because there are a lot of opportunities that the Bucs team missed. And on the other side, I think the Saints are just getting back into the groove with Drew Brees, because that rib injury still looks like it's bothering him a little bit. So I think this is going to be close. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be like a 3-point game, but I do give the Saints the edge because I think their defense is better, and they'll be able to control the clock with their running game when it comes to crunch time. Now, to move on to the last topic and the most exciting topic of this podcast, and that is the James Harden trade. Now, again, like I said at the beginning, I'm kind of shocked it happened this soon. I knew it was going to happen, but A, I'm shocked that it happened so soon, and B, I'm shocked that it was to the Nets. I thought for sure it was going to be to like the Sixers, but in this block of blockbuster trades, it was a 4-team trade. And in this 4-team trade, that included the Cavaliers, the Nets, the Pacers, and of course the Houston Rockets. So first I want to go through what each team that wasn't the Rockets got, and then we'll go through the Rockets finally. So first, we have the Cavs, and the Cavs receive Jared Allen and Taurean Prince, and I think this is really good for the Cavs because all they had to give up was a Bucks 2022 first-round pick, and that's not very much value anymore because Giannis signed the Supermax. So unless he wants to pull a Deshaun Watson and ask for a trade 1 year after signing his massive deal, then I don't see why that pick would be that much value. And to get basically for that pick, Taurean Prince and Jared Allen is a good trade. Now on the other side, for this part of the trade, I'll call it parts and I'll do each one in a part. I think this is good for the Brooklyn Nets as well, because they were going to need to either trade DeAndre Jordan or Jared Allen, because both of those people couldn't coexist. Because I think Jared Allen was too good to be on the bench, and DeAndre Jordan's ego wouldn't allow him to be on the bench. So one of the two had to give. So it's good that they were able to trade and get out and get something out of Jared Allen, which is obviously James Harden, the beard. Now, the next part of this trade I want to talk about is the Pacers, who receive Caris LeVert and a second-round pick. Now, from what I can tell, the only thing they give up for this is Victor Oladipo. As I'm looking at this trade right now, they might have given up a second-round pick, but that doesn't really matter. And you're giving me Caris LeVert in a second-round pick, and all I have to give up is Victor Oladipo is a deal, because Caris LeVert has shown improvement all of his years, and Victor Oladipo is coming off an injury that we don't know how good he's going to be long-term. So that's a very good deal for the Pacers. And then for the Rockets, I think this is good because they needed some sort of player to get. And Victor Oladipo is still a solid player. Do not get me wrong. He is a solid player. And you get 4 first round, and you get stuff we'll talk about later, but that's good for the Rockets, and I think it's good for the Pacers. So overall, good on that part. Now next, the Nets receive James Harden, the 2nd round pick. Now, is this too much? I personally don't think it is because of the situation with Kyrie. I don't want to really touch on it too much because it's not something, I don't want to talk about that drama. But basically, Kyrie is like going to parties and not following COVID rules, so he has to like stay away from the team. And it seems like something's happening with Kyrie. So this doesn't only give them a big 3 if all 3 of them join together, but it also gives insurance for if Kyrie for some reason implodes. And I think for that reason, this is a really good trade for the Nets, even though they're giving up 4 first-round picks and they're doing 4 pick swaps. That's kind of insane, actually. But I think it is worth it for the beard because I think you get a good 3 years out of both of them. And after that, you'll still be missing a couple picks by that point. I think you'll still get the 2026. You'll still be missing your 2026 pick, I think, at that point. And you'll have the 2027 and the 2025, I think, will all be picks that will be post that era. But the 2025 and the 2027 picks are both pick swaps, so you still get the first round picks. You just don't get the good. You still have the first round picks. You just don't get the best versions of them. And then the only pick you just straight out lose is the Nets pick, where you are maybe rebuilding again. So I think overall that was a really good trade for the Nets. And then of course the Rockets. And I think they got enough. I think if it was just the picks, Dante Exum and I can't even pronounce this other dude's name. I'm sorry, dude. I'm going to try. Rodimus Korkus? I'm sorry, man, if I messed that up. I'm going to be completely honest. I do not know how to say that. But they got Victor Oladipo too, which I think that is a push this trade over the top. Because you get a team that can still kind of compete now and be competitive. So you still get something to give to your fans. And that is an important part of this entire thing. It just is that you not only have something you can market to the fans, but you also have a way to rebuild for the future. I think that's an amazing way they're doing it right now. And I think that they could still sneak into the playoffs because I think getting rid of James Harden is going to help with the culture of the Rockets. So I think that it is definitely possible. I think likely that this all worked out for the best for all 4 teams in this trade. I don't think there was any clear winner or loser in this trade. I think they all won. So I think this is just a great deal all around. We'll see how time tells, but I think this is a great deal all around. That's all I have. I want to thank you all for listening. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can go to the description and click on my blog to check out articles I've written or my other podcasts. Or if you just want to talk basketball or football or any other sport, I'll do my best. You can go to the contact page and use the email or use the phone number and text me or email me. Don't call me because I won't pick up. And yeah, other than that, I really just want to say thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I am sorry if the audio is kind of messed up today. There's some weird stuff that happened with the computer that I tried to fix on the fly, but I'm not sure if I fixed it, so I'm going to have to deal with that. But by next episode, it should be fixed. So that's all good. And then coming next episode, hopefully, this will be on Spotify, and it will be moved to a YouTube channel called PD Smash Sports, I believe is what I'm going to call it. I will link it in the description of the next video I post. So that way there will be a separate platform for these podcasts, which that will be all cool. And I'll hopefully be able to like start marketing it and getting revenue from it and all that if I can get enough listeners. So that's going to all be cool if you're listening to this on YouTube and you're one of the first people to listen to this. So just giving you a little bit update on my channel. So I really just want to thank you again for listening. And until next time, PD Smash signing off.